What would be the 2 steps that we can take to avoid the complications of loneliness?
I do encourage people to step out and give relationship another chance because we can't survive without it. People wanting a magic pill to make things go away, to make them feel better, not just emotionally, but also physically, and to get to the point where they are okay with the fact that that magic pill doesn't exist.
Welcome to Mastery Podcast, where we share stories of impact-driven entrepreneurs to create that ripple effect of positivity. I am your host, Dr. Sass. Today we have with us Christian Janeé. Welcome, Kristen. Now, Kristen is an author, a nurse practitioner, a healer, and a teacher whose work centers around transforming heartbreak into healing. You have a rich background in healthcare, right, as a nurse practitioner, and you wrote a book, Almost a Wife.
Yes.
Welcome, Kristen.
Hi, Dr. Sass. It is so wonderful to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you here. And today, she's here to share how her personal challenges have shaped her approach to helping others heal and thrive. Kristen, welcome to the show. Now, you told me a little bit about your personal life. You grew up in Japan, right?
I did. My dad was in the Navy, so that was the furthest that we lived. So I like to say I was made in California, raised in between Japan and Ohio. So,
oh, that's cute. That's cute. And what experience do you have in? You don't remember, right? You were younger then.
Every memory that I have of Japan was very comforting. I remember everyone being very kind, and I do know that it helped to form a lot of the way that I view relationships, the way that I view people. And I don't necessarily say that I don't see different nationalities. I just love that I appreciate them a lot more. And I always look to get to know people at their core, no matter where they're from.
Awesome. All right. You being the nurse practitioner during the pandemic in 2020, how do you see loneliness impact the health of others?
Oh, I'm sure it takes all of us back, thinking about the pandemic and having it be mandatory that we were separated from one another. And we are naturally beings that need relationship. We need to be connected. We need to be around each other. So, of course, as great as the end of life experience, which sadly people were not able to be, with their family members while they were ill. So it's difficult for not only the patient, but of course the family members that just want to be able to hold a hand during that separation or during that time where they're not feeling well, being able to offer a meal. But loneliness itself complicates illnesses. So a lot of those people who maybe in normal circumstances may have recovered from COVID or from the complications of COVID because they were so isolated, I believe that probably magnified or intensified that illness and expedited their death.
Yeah, I can imagine that. And we need each other. We need community. Yeah. We need other human beings. Can imagine, when you're suffering from this massive illness and cannot see your loved ones.
It's definitely unimaginable. So, and something that I pray none of us have to experience ever again.
Absolutely. Yeah, me too. Now, how have you been personally impacted by the loneliness?
Personally, I think just because it is the most recent and probably the most intense example, would be COVID. And even though I live just 2 hours away from my family, I remember when I developed a respiratory infection and had to be quarantined for 2 weeks and having to just rely on people who I didn't necessarily know. So my neighbors really came through, thankfully, but it was still so strange that they would get my groceries and drop them off outside the door because they couldn't come in, and FaceTiming with my parents and, how difficult it was. I know you're a mother, so not being able to get to your child when they don't feel good, and me being on the healthcare side, talking my mom out of coming down because I didn't want her to get sick because she has other health conditions. So the illness could have been a lot worse for her. So, yeah, it plays a whole nother psychological role
at the level, right?
Yeah.
I can see that. Now you have this program called Learning to Love Again, right? And how does this program help address the loneliness and help others navigate through heartbreaks?
So with that program, there are 4 different tiers. So I work mostly with women, and it started after a heartbreak that I had a few years ago, a relational heartbreak. So, and separating from that particular person and learning how to break the cycle of falling in love with the same man, but in a different body. That's my goal, is to help us figure out where that is and whether that cycle revolves around your career, because I've also had full circle moments where I'm like, okay, I keep getting employed by these places, but it's the same story. Like, it's the same thing. So what is the thing that's starting it? What's making me attract this? So I work with women, like I said, relationship, with financial or career heartbreak, also with your faith and your health, to get you to the point of peace and resilience from that initial, stagnant moment. So there are 4 different transitional components, but yeah, that's the end goal, is to get you to the point where you're more resilient, where you feel like you have overall peace and contentment, because from there you, again, attract what you actually deserve instead of being on that same cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. You try to uncover the underlying reason why you keep repeating the same pattern.
Exactly.
Why people keep repeating the same pattern, right?
Exactly.
Can you share a particular transformative moment in your personal life, your own healing journey that led you to a breakthrough?
Just one. I feel like there are several examples that I could kind of call upon. I will say that grief and recovery has kind of been a theme in my life. So from the time I was 5, of course, it wasn't, even though I was young, it wasn't very easy to leave a completely different country and come to Ohio. And, after that, my parents' divorce, and then just different heartbreaks. And I actually lost my father to a traumatic incident when I was in high school. So, and then as you get older, then it transitioned to romantic breakups. So as I said, just learning that with each one of those breakups, for whatever reason, it was more natural for me to sit in that grief and not rush through it. And looking and observing the people around me that were going through difficult times, I realized that the way I was handling it wasn't the social norm. And I just saw a lot more people struggle, and meeting and talking with different women about how they handled things or how they wish they would have handled things made me realize that this is something that's necessary for where we're at. So I'm sorry I didn't give you a particular example.
No. I mean, I think a lot of people think heartbreaks is, for me, the first thing that comes to mind is romantic relationship, but there are different heartbreaks. It could be from job, from disappointment in anything, right? Your parents get divorced, and those are heartbreaks. Those are traumatic events that we must recover from. And you guide people through the recovery.
Yes.
Awesome. And in what way do you think, as a nurse practitioner, that you approach this healing differently than other practitioners, for example?
Yeah. I feel like that it's an honor to be in my profession, as well as the ministry. I feel like this just helps me to kind of streamline, because I'm already in a position where people come to me in some of their most vulnerable states, and they share certain things with me. The hard part with being a nurse practitioner are the time constraints. So when I'm in the office speaking with women about different things that may have broken their heart or things that are causing them to stay in the grief cycle, I don't have the time that I would love to have to be able to really get to the core and really walk them through the process. And with insurance, kind of dictating how a lot of things go. I know you can relate as well. Yes, we'll talk about that another day. So with that, if I'm doing a follow-up with a patient and, if it is just about grief, there's only so many appointments that will be covered versus with this program, we work it out as long as we need to work it out.
I can imagine that, it's you have to create a program that really serves the people that you want to serve.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So, Kristen, this is a beautiful book here, Almost a Wife. Can you tell us a little bit about what this book is about and who it's for?
Yeah, so I love the full title, Almost a Wife, A Journey from Heartbreak to Wholeness. And then on the inside, it also shares, it is a love story between a girl and her God. So at the end of my entire journey of my heartbreak, and I've been engaged a few times, but this particular engagement, we were just a few months out from our wedding when we had to call everything off. And in that process that we kind of talked about before, where I was like, what is this? I thought I was out of the pattern with that particular person because he was different in my mind than the other men that I had been dating. But once that kind of fell apart, I really had to sit and evaluate myself. And thankfully, I have a wonderful tribe of women, and some of my best friends really sat down and asked me hard questions as far as what I was looking for. And just a lot of self-reflection took place. And I realized I needed to really learn what love really was, what it really meant to be able to give love to other people, and what it really meant to even be a wife, because I really didn't know. I was just going to jump into this thing and accept this role. It was like accepting a job that I didn't even look at the job description for. So I realized I needed to do a lot of internal work and a lot of research.
It's a huge commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And sometimes, like you say, if I can do it differently, because I went through a divorce, and right now I'm on my second marriage, and our relationship was kind of rocky in the beginning. And, looking at myself back then, this would have been helpful.
You can still read it.
And I can, definitely. I would love to read it. Yeah, and these are for women who want to kind of break out those patterns, right?
Yeah. So although it is my story, it's written to inspire women to continue on and to pursue their healing journey first and foremost, but to continue on the road, because it's not easy. Like you said, it's something that can take a lot of time. It's very uncomfortable. But I promise on the other side, it's really worth it.
And from the experience you've been through, and from the learnings you got, and the certification and all the stuff that you did,
all the sleepless nights.
Yeah, she did a lot. Plus this book, what would be the 2 steps that we can take to avoid the complications of loneliness?
So I would say, because in my experience, the people that I know who are combating loneliness are on far ends of the spectrum. So either you are jumping into a lot of situations that may not be serving you very well. So whether that's romantic relationships or even friendships that are not equal and reciprocated, or you are isolating yourself. So it's finding that middle ground. So if you are a person that's in isolation because you're trying to protect yourself, your goal is to preserve yourself. You've been hurt before. You don't want to ever feel that feeling again. I do encourage people to step out and give relationship another chance, because we can't survive without it. And for the person who's on the other side, who's jumping into all the things and overcommitting, just learn about yourself. I would challenge you to take a second to figure out, who you are, what you like, what you love about yourself. So, and I think from there, your other relationships will improve.
Thank you for that advice. And I'm sure a lot of people can find that beneficial. What common misconception people have about healing from heartbreak, and how do you address this in your work?
I think the biggest misconception is that you can put a time on it, or that you can rush through it. So I actually had it started out as a candid or like a fun conversation with a friend about superpowers. Which superpower would you choose? And one of the superpowers she said she would choose would be the ability to kind of control time. Because when things aren't good, when you're going through grief or going through a breakup, a broken heart, we were talking about specifically, she would like to fast forward through that. And that's not how we grow. That's not how we improve. That's not how we get to be the person that we're called to be. So we do need the difficult times in order to appreciate the wonderful times. And she also wanted to slow down the really happy times, but I feel like we don't. It's like if you live by a beach, then you hardly go. Like we take things for granted. So the great times wouldn't seem as great either without the bad times. And if they lasted so long, that we wouldn't recognize them as good times.
That's a good advice. And we do take things for granted. And that's what I want my superpower too, is to control time. I mean, you can buy things, you can make more money, you can get more stuff, but you can't
get more time.
No, we can't get more time. So
very true.
That would be the superpower that I would choose.
To have more time, or to
be able to control time.
Okay.
This is my superpower, is to jump into any timeline, any universes that I want to.
Okay. I like that.
That's my superpower. If I want to go backward, I can. And if I want to go forward, I also can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I might have to change mine.
You may have to. What future developments and expansions are you planning for the Learning to Love Again program?
The Learning to Love Again program is actually under the umbrella of Almost a Wife. So my goal is, or my dream is, for one day, not only for there to be, conferences or retreats, but for it to be the Almost a Wife Women's Academy, where we just work through a multitude of different programs, where we're just kind of a factory for putting out heal and whole women that are functioning at the, just the maximum capacity of their calling. So that's my big dream, is to create different programs that when they come by, there will be more books coming. So a big dream, but I'm learning to pace myself. So yeah, that would be where I see Almost a Wife and the Learning to Love Again program going in the future.
That's a great vision to have, and I can see that coming.
Yeah.
Kristen, what has been the most challenging thing for you in helping others to overcome heartbreak, and how did you overcome that challenge?
I think the biggest one would be that time component that we talked about. Because, yes,
we need that superpower.
Or I wish maybe if I had the remote and I could get people to understand, that could be a whole nother thing, whole nother class. We'll learn to understand time and the importance of it, and bigger than just time management. But the fact that we can't rush through the process, like we're only cheating ourselves. So that would be the biggest challenge, is people wanting a magic pill.
Yeah.
To make things go away, to make them feel better, not just emotionally, but also physically, and to get to the point where they are okay with the fact that that magic pill doesn't exist, but that the journey itself is the most rewarding part. Like that's, I don't know. Have you heard the saying about how, like on your tombstone at the end of life, you'll have, the year you were born and the year you die, but the dash is the most important part. So it's the same thing with the grief journey. It's
I believe it was you that I heard it from.
Oh.
Yeah, through our conversations, and I thought that was really wise. And it is the time between the day we were born and the day we die, right? Those are the most impactful, it should be, like smelling the roses along the way, right? And there's this cartoon movie called Puss in Boots.
Mm-hmm.
It's a movie.
Yes.
It's exactly, that's what it reminded me of, because you can go through the journey in an ugly way, or you can go through the journey with, roses and flowers and sunshines and rainbow.
It's our perspective. So.
It is our perspective. Absolutely. And Kristen, this is a really heavy subject, right, that you help support others to go through. How do you, and I ask myself this all the time, psychiatrists and the same way, how do you maintain your emotional health and your outlook in life when you're supporting people going through this dark time?
I know the biggest thing for me is, I would say, my faith and meditating, starting the day by centering myself and getting poured into from God or from my higher power. And that way, everything else can flow from there. I also am very blessed to have a strong support system. So when things do feel, too heavy for me, I do have people I can lean on. So making sure that my relationships are strong as I'm encouraging others to develop healthy relationships and healthy habits. So, and then eating right and trying to get enough sleep.
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. It's more than just one pillar of happiness, of wellness, right? It's all the thing, and it including the relationship that you have with your community, the support system. And I'm glad you have all that, because it is a very heavy job, and you're an amazing person to take on this task and this mission. Can you share a success from someone who's been through your Learning to Love Again program?
Yeah, so I have someone who, one of my favorite clients, we had known each other kind of more so at a distance for several years. And once she came on board, there were a few things that if she were to ask me, I was thinking of different suggestions beforehand. But when she kind of hit her rock bottom in a certain area, then she did reach out to me. And ironically, that rock bottom is the place it's the starting place for the program. That's the place that we kind of need you to get to, not saying that we'll force anything, but that's the point that makes us want to really commit to making the change. So once she reached that point, we were able to help her create different goals, and the thing that she wanted to change most happened to be her health at that point. So able to get her to develop like a healthier workout routine and to develop a passion and a love for her body in its current state, but also being able to commit to working towards where she wanted to see herself so that she could be more available for her children as they were growing up, and more available for her spouse. And she was able to get it just trickled into everything else. She got a promotion at work, and everything just started to blossom because she had gotten to that happy, centered place and let everything flow from there.
Nice, right. People forget that you need to be balanced to be the most effective you.
Yes.
And that's when the real you shine.
Yes.
Right. Thank you, Kristen, for being here and for sharing your knowledge about healing through heartbreak, and for sharing your book. And for our audience out there, if you need support in this area, check out Kristen. Kristen, where can our viewers find you?
So my website, almostawife.com. It does have links to all of my social media platforms, but I'm Christian Janeé _ on pretty much every social media platform. So Instagram, TikTok, I believe Twitter as well, and then Christian Janeé on Facebook.
Awesome. And we'll put a description in the link, and please make sure you check her out and buy this book, Almost a Wife. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Kristen, for being here. Until next time, we're signing off. Bye for now.